It's time really to open up to the floor now and to have your questions. And I'm sure if you do have questions about the earlier talk, we can try and answer them here as well. So really open to the floor and open to online as well. I'm not quite sure, Lauren, how you'll... We'll start in person, okay. So if you have any questions, do raise your hand. If you said anything. Okay. Oh yes, hello. Hi. Do you want to? Sorry.
Hello, thank you to you both. That was fantastic. My name's Maggie. I run Mothers Uncovered in Brighton. We're a peer-led group supporting mums. It's not so much a question, it was more something that Kate said, so obviously she's not here to answer it, around primitive instincts. And I wondered how many people are aware of primitive retained reflexes. Is that something you've studied? Those are the 7 reflexes that babies are born with, which all drop away in the first couple of years of life, and can often not because of a traumatic birth, or perhaps even being separated from her mother. So it's not even my research, it's my friend's research. But I think it's really fascinating, because if unchecked, it can lead on a path to autism, ADHD, many other diets. So I just thought it was something I would like people to know about.
Do you have any names of specific researchers or authors who have sort of pinned this down?
Not of authors. My friend did a short documentary called Attention Please, which you can find on Amazon Prime. I don't know why I'm promoting my friend, not my work, but never mind. I just think it's interesting.
I know who the guru is called Madeline Portwood.
Okay.
Madeline Portwood. And I had it with my son. It's very important, this actually. The guru on this thing about retained primitive reflexes, which handicap children, and they're typically Malco and probably dyslexic at school, because the birth reflexes are not properly shed as they should be as they grow. And you can do exercises, and curiously my granddaughter is now doing them as well, but to put these things to bed, and then they get out of your way, and then the children can flourish. And there's a super new program which has been done locally to me in Wiltshire called Carefulness, not Carefulness. And I meant to bring the leaflets, actually. It's very strange that you brought it up. But Madeline Portwood was with my son's generation, so a long time ago. But she's written a very good, huge book, which I bought online second-hand the other day for the person who's doing them. And come and talk to me, anyone who wants to know, if you don't know. It's very interesting. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that was fine. No, I just thought it was interesting. Anyway.
Actually, I have a question, Liz. So you sound like you've got it very sorted, but for mothers that are struggling with teenage years, and you go through difficult periods, whether you've got a wonderful family, and there are times where you really do struggle, and sometimes you wonder whether you've got it all wrong, and I had a very difficult time with one of mine. How do you go through the times which are really challenging, when they really do challenge you? With mine, I'm very lucky that I think the thing that you said, that they always know that you're there for them, that I think that was the sort of thing that saw us both through. But how do you deal with the times where they really do, whether it's hormonal or... Actually, ours was through COVID, and I think because their freedom was so restricted, they ended up doing things that they probably wouldn't have done otherwise. Yes, but how do you cope with those years?
I think fundamentally, I have it wired in a different way in my mind. I think that life is hard. So I always start from that point. Life is hard. This is not paradise. If you're just driving in London, you know how hard life is. So I don't have a pretty picture of life. I start from that point, that it's hard. When you bring a newborn baby home, it's hard. When they start teething, it's hard. When they stand up and pull your tablecloth and smash your crockery, it's hard. When they're trying to climb into washing machines, it's hard. When they're falling down the stairs because you just realize, oh gosh, I didn't buy the stair gate, it's hard. Like, it's hard at every stage. Do you know what I mean? And so I've already fixed that. That's very deeply in me, that every single stage is gonna be hard, a different type of hard. But I'm gonna put a spin on everything. That's what I'm going to do. And so when it gets tough, I've already prepared myself that it's going to get tough. And what I've tend to do is ask myself the worst thing that can happen. Because if we can go to the worst thing, then we can prepare for things that are less than the worst thing. And ask myself, how would I respond? Imagine if one of them turned up and said this. And then, oh my goodness, what would you do this? I play out all these scenarios so that whatever I do receive from the children, well, it's not like my worst nightmare. So that's in the background of my mind. But when they do present challenges, I like to switch it up. The thing with children is they don't like the mundane, and they don't like things they can expect. Do you understand me? They don't want a predictive life. So when I try and be quite like a thermometer. I try and work out the temperature of my home. The reason I want them to be able to talk to me, but I also know that teenagers will not tell you everything because you're their mother. Does that make sense? And I need to know when to let dad go in, and I need to know when I can go and talk about particular things. I mean, manly things. Does that make sense? And dad's got the man version, and I've got from the female perspective. So we do a tag team thing. But when they present difficulty, try and take them out on a date. That's what I mean by I flip things. Change the environment. Change is good. Even in marriage, if there's problems, you can't go for. No! Oh my goodness. Okay. Yes. Rewind. When there's problems, go and find yourself on a date. Go for a walk. I don't know what it is about changing your environment, but it does seem to help so we can get to the crux of things. It's the same with teenagers. You can scream in your head. I always tell the young mothers I mentor, when your teenagers come with some craziness, smile. Smile. Run upstairs, get your pillow, scream! Come back down, smile. Does that make sense? Let them know they can never ruffle you. It's not going to happen. Okay, that's the best I can come up with.
Thank you. Yes, I had four children, and we lost their father when the youngest was 3. So you'll imagine we went through tremendous trauma. And we got to teenager with my daughter, who was the eldest, and then there were 3 boys. And she became really challenging, really, really difficult. And she did quite well at school. Well, she did very well at school, up to GCSE. And then, the 6th form, it was all about going to raves, not doing homework, not doing this, not doing that. I was a bit at my wit's end. Anyway, in the end, she said, right, well, don't think I'm going to university, because I'm not. So I said, well, that's fine, but you must get a job then, you can't just stick around at home. Oh, what are you going to do? Oh, I'll be an au pair. Oh, okay, where? I think I'll go to France. I was quite good at French, she said. Right. So we got an agency and got something organised. The agent got something organised. It was in the centre of Paris. And I thought, well, if she's going to survive in the centre of Paris, but anyway. Off she went, and she had a most difficult few weeks, not knowing anybody. She couldn't just go out with her mates. She suddenly realised that actually she didn't speak French, and the little girl would be running away and she wouldn't know how to say, stop, don't climb up that wall, all this stuff. She went through it, and she was there until Christmas. She came back, she was a different person. I mean, when the plane took off, the plane to Paris in that September, I cried my eyes out. It wasn't, oh, my daughter's gone, I'll feel bereft. No. That was actually a sense of relief at the time. I must tell you, I cried for all those lost times when we'd been arguing and things had gone bad and so on. Yeah, but she came back. It was the making of her, She's now an almost 50-year-old woman, highly competent. I'm staying with them at the minute, so I can get to this. But anyway, that was one story of misery. I'm telling you, it was utter misery. I was totally lost. I didn't know how to cope, But, this mention of keep faith, keep believing, and keep loving. That's all you can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the floor? Yes?
I was just thinking about what you were saying, that society's conventions do not always have a moral consensus, like just because it's official or happening doesn't make it right. And you were saying earlier that policy seems to be going in even opposite direction to what research and everything is showing. So since the research is so evident, how do we not despair about policy going in the opposite direction, and what more can we do?
Yes, thank you. It is easy to despair, and it's only coming to events like this that stops one despairing, actually, because you think here is a body of women that are prepared to speak out for what's important, and that is the main thing. But, you know, it's this whole emphasis that's gone on in the last 10, 12 years about early years is about education. About education. We must educate the brain. Actually, I think what we should be educating is the heart, actually. As parents, we educate the heart, the brain will take care of itself. But yes, I do despair, and it's the have it all and the low priority put on parenting, especially on full-time parenting, and all about let's get kids into nurseries. My God, the idea at 9 months, absolutely the beginning of the foundational time of attachment, putting them into situations of group care stress in nurseries, and we have lots of research, Diana, research from America, research from Norway about the impact. And now we can do quick salivary tests on a child, a little cotton bud into the mouth. You can test for cortisol. Now, cortisol in all of us is higher in the morning than other times of the day. The child comes to nursery, has to part with mum or dad or granny or whoever it is, and the cortisol levels will be high. That's okay. That is as it should be. The child then seems to settle through the day. The surprising research by Megan Gunnar, and then later by, it was Drudli from Norway, wasn't it? That Drudli et al. From Norway, 2018, was that actually stress levels, cortisol levels remained extremely high way into the afternoon, even when the child was apparently happily playing and settled. I'm sorry, care by another person other than the mother, fine. A trusted other person, granny, childminder, friend, whoever it happens to be, as the child gets a bit older, fine. Group care with lots of other crying babies and very busy atmosphere for young babies. And now, I even see soft touch screens there, and I despair.
We will touch a bit more on mothering and politics, but there is a growing. It's worrying when I go into Parliament that the narrative now has become more and more that early years are really important for their education, and therefore they need professionals because professionals do it better. So that is a really worrying development. But yes, we will touch on that in the afternoon. So yeah.
But then, on the other hand, you get they don't give the professional development to people. They take people straight from school who have a passion and want to look after children, which is fantastic, but they don't then give them the proper training. They don't pay them properly, and that's a whole other issue. So, it's not joined up, is it, at all? And I think, all we can do, as you say, despair. But everybody in this room, I guess we've all sort of taken on our own. We've taken ownership for our families, at least, and hopefully it will, we'll bring up good children. Hopefully we'll have the same values and so on, and pass it on. That's kind of like, a little burning candle. It's not enough, though, and I don't really know what can be done on top of that, but I think we should all be proud for doing our bits, I guess. So, sorry.
Yeah. Well, we will touch on this in the afternoon, but yeah, I'll go over to the back.
Sorry, I just wanted to add, we can despair, but we can also, I think Anna's going to speak about that later. She's not here at the moment. She's coming back. We can also in our communities, can't we, say what we do and not hide from it and be proud of it? So I don't think we should despair on that immediate level, because you live in it and you should be proud of what you do, and you might encourage other people to think about their choice rather than just run with the mainstream choice. That's all. And thank you to the speakers who've really made me so happy to hear that stuff. Thank you.
I was really interested to hear what you were saying about society not liking teenagers. And what resonated with me is that society doesn't really like children, full stop. But the two times at which they really, really, really don't like them is toddlers and I hate the phrase, terrible twos, and teenagers. And I was interested to know how maybe you feel that your parenting has been very similar, and you've been able to see kind of mirrors of it at the toddler stage and in the teenage years.
Thank you. Well, for me, it was about doing things together. And the one thing that I could do with my four, when they're stretching from a baby to a sort of 7-year-old or something, was to make bread. So they all know how to make bread. They can do anything with dough. They can do it at their own level, and they can eat it afterwards. What could be better? So it's doing stuff together and actually kind of building the children's own relationships with each other. So they feel loyalty to each other and they feel they can support each other. We have the usual WhatsApp thing. I mean, they're always ragging each other on it, but it's absolutely great. And I think it's just wonderful. Keeping in touch, you have each other, we can do things together and we can enjoy life together.
Yes, like you, I don't believe in terrible twos. I never labeled my children having any terrible two. To me, they were amazing, cute little babies. Like, what do you mean they're terrible? Like, no, that's a no from me. There's no terrible twos. Nor will I be calling any 2-year-old terrible. But I would say that, yes, there is a difference. When they are younger and they can't verbally communicate, I am African, so I have to also put something out there. My grandmother passed on a lot of things to me, and so did my mother, and talking about community. So when a child cries, back home, we have certain ways of trying to understand what they're saying and what's going on. If a child is not comfortable, you're gonna know about it. So they like a good massage. When I have a newborn, my mum would come, because I'm a hot mess. I look like a London red bus has hit me. And she takes care of the baby. She sings to my children as she bathes them, uses a flannel to give them like some kind of Scandinavian massage of some sort, because it looks brutal in my eyes. I'm like, that's my baby. But she's trying to say, she's like, they were all squashed up and now they're out here, not in water, they need that. And she's like on their back and she's singing and using oil and doing all this, and they love it. If I tell you, they sleep for hours after my mum would leave. And also something else, which I don't even know if I can mention it here, but children, like the formula milk. When I had a premature baby, they were on formula because I wasn't producing enough breast milk. And that caused him to constipate, but I didn't know it was constipation. And so my grandma had a way of relieving the baby. And as soon as he was relieved, I would have peace. The crying would stop. Or I would have a baby whose eyes was itchy and had this sticky stuff on it. My mum would just tell me, squeeze some of your breast milk inside the eye. I was like, ah! But I hated seeing my little ones distraught. So I tried it and it actually cleared it up. I told the boys the other day that, I could be coming to your house when you have your babies and, asking your wives to squeeze some. And they were like, no, don't come to our house and say this, And so when you have the toddler years is keeping them occupied. They want to be stimulated. I soon realized that I don't need to have them crying. They want to do something. So whether it was a watercoloring book, if we're traveling, I would have them occupied with something at all times. And if they're teething, you have to have a bag of tricks. There's no way you're going to be at that stage with the littles. You don't have a bag of tricks. I mean, the bigger your bag, the safer you'll be, to be honest. I mean, I had my daughter ask a bald man at the age of 4 why his head is bald on a plane. And I was mortified. And everyone could hear it. You know, he said, "Mum, look at this bald man." Why is his head bald? And it was like, stop talking, oh my goodness. But he actually said, wow, she's quite, observant, is how he said it. And we all played it off and we laughed. But when people try and make your children seem as if they're a nuisance, no, I block those things out. They're not a nuisance, right? Because we don't know, talking about despair, we don't know that this little light of hope we have, you don't know what child you're raising. You don't know the work that they're about to do when you're even long gone. You don't know the children they will carry because of the values you put in them that they passed on. The work we're doing, as much as it might seem like it's in the corners, it has power because darkness can never overcome light. Thank you.
Yeah, my son asked, why did someone vacuum up his hair? I was like, well, vacuum anyway.
Hello, I'm a mother of 3 and a grandmother of 3 at the moment. And I just wanted to ask about parenting fads, because I hear through when I had children, you were told you must keep them in this routine. Now there's child-led parenting, that you must let children choose the food they want to eat. And I love the way you parent, Liz. I love that. I wish I'd met you when I had small children. I love your style of parenting, but you're anxious as a parent. You don't know what on earth you're doing, and a lot of it is really scary. And then all your friends are in this parenting fad. So I must be doing that because they're doing that. If I don't do that, I won't have good children. Your kind of parenting is instinctive. And I hope you are sharing that and spreading that, because it's a lovely, natural way of parenting. And I think communicating with your children is one of the most important things. And one thing that people said to me, well, how come your 18-year-old son still comes and lies on your bed and talks to you? I mean, how did you manage that? And I said, because when he was 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, I listened. He came and lay on my bed then, and we talked about stuff. And you don't suddenly have that relationship with that 17, 18-year-old boy. It comes from the very beginning, and it's about listening and being there, giving time.
We'll take one more question at the end and then go online.
I just wondered if you had any more advice about navigating social media and phone use in teenagers, because it just seems massive, and how you want to help your child not to really be into that, but you're aware the culture we're in is like phone obsessed and it's addictive, and I'd love my kids not to be like that. So have you got any thoughts?
We'll take one more and then we'll...
Oh no, it wasn't me, it was Esther. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Esther.
Thank you. Thank you, Liz, so much for your presentation. Probably thanks to your family as well, because you all put it together. But you literally presented what I want to be, how I want to raise my 2 little kids. And it's funny because I'm from West Africa, and sometimes the West African mother in me tries to come up. So my question is, I know you know what I'm talking about. How do you overcome that to bring them up in this way that you have explained? Because, I mean, it's easy to just say, listen, just do what you're told. This is what I'm telling you to do. Don't ask questions. Because growing up, our parents believe children are to be seen and not heard. but the way you explained it, it's literally what I envisioned for myself and my kids. So how do you overcome that cultural background? And then secondly, you made so many recommendations, good recommendations. Is it possible for you to put them all together, the books, the Ruby box? I mean, my children are not old enough yet, but I would love to have them, and just give it to the committee to share with everybody here today. Thanks. She didn't write them down.
Yeah, we'll definitely find a way. But
so with the first social media. So I'm hoping this will help. But for us with social media, unless you've started work or you're 18, we don't have a child having a phone within our home. And I don't know how you're even going to take that, but that's just, this is us. We have phone policies in our home. You know what I found, if I'm just brutally honest? I found that as a society, we spend more time and investment and energy in running businesses and making sure that businesses are run effectively than we do with using that same energy in running a family. That's what I found. And the family is more important than the business. So I would say, when I say we use a lot of family meetings, that's like imperative, because it puts everyone on the same page and it brings everyone into understanding. We've watched so many documentaries, so it can't be just do as we say. If it's not good for the children, it's also not good for us. So whatever we ask the children to do, we can't do it. Children hate hypocrisy. They will be the first to call you out and know about it. Right? I'm telling you something. They will call you out, but you said, right? And their brains are faster than yours. So I would definitely say to you, if you want to implement something with your children, make sure that you're also ready to implement it with yourself. So if you're at the dining table, we don't allow phones. That's from dad to mum to all our adult children. They're 25 and 24, but they still respect their father's wishes under his roof, because he's always told them that because they love Marvel, with great power comes great responsibility. So he tells them that being older, you have more responsibility because your siblings are watching you. Your siblings are taking you as the lead. And so phones must be put away, and they respect that. And I love that they even respect that. My son is 17 and he just got a phone because he works part-time as a lifeguard at David Lloyd. And he has dad's old phone. They don't have new phones. They have old. If I could even find an old brick and paint numbers on it, I would give it to them. But that's how it goes. And when he goes to work, he picks it up from dad's in the study, from dad's desk, and he takes it. When he comes back, he puts it down. And again, we've got canopy on there, right? So he can only access what we deemed as suitable for a 17-year-old. I would be out of my mind to give such a powerful tool, place it on the shoulders of young children. I would be just out of my mind, because they've got access to the world. Not to my neighborhood and not to just my city or town, to the world. And then everyone else has access to them. I might as well leave my doors and windows open and invite everyone. All the burglars will be like, oh, Liz, we love you. This is easy. But we don't do that in real life, and we certainly won't do it in the digital world. Okay, yeah.
It is a massive, massive challenge for today's parents. It's one that I didn't have to face. What my daughter and son, who have children, our grandchildren, do, is they limit time. So, you know, okay, you've been on the Xbox, you've had an hour on the, off you come, it goes off, you know. Just limiting time, but actually it's modelling how you want them to be by yourself. It's the old adage, children learn not by what you tell them, but what they see. And I used to say this to my students who were going out into, you know, into nurseries and so on their practice. You know, children are never worried that children don't listen to you. Always worry they are always watching you. Yes. So I despair actually when I see parents out with the children in prams or wherever, and they're on their phone, they're talking to someone else, and there's this little wonderful creature there that's not having any attention at all. Very worrying, very worrying. But actually the one thing I kept at the back of my mind, I suppose, and at the forefront of my thoughts, was that I'm not bringing the children up for me, I'm bringing them up for the world. Will they survive in the world? Will they contribute positively to the world in this way or that way, or whatever my decision had to be? And of course, I was a single parent for a few years before I remarried, and a man who has been a very good parent to my children. So I actually have 4 children and 2 stepchildren.
Okay, we're going to have a few questions from online now. First of all, we had some great comments about your session through the online. We were getting some really excited comments on the way through, so that obviously landed well with people. First question from Charlotte: what do you think the long-term impact of this new culture of motherhood outside of the home will be on the children?
This new culture? New culture of motherhood. Do you mean other people? Not in the home, yeah. Well, actually, one effect, I mean, we can rehearse all kinds of effects on the children, but actually there is an effect on women themselves. And I've come across some work recently. I need to get back in touch with her because she was at the very embryo of her work, which is looking at the menopause and women's health in the menopause if they had been leading highly stressed lives from, say, sort of teens through to the menopause. They hadn't stopped, basically, really. And she hadn't much time to explain the science to me, but it's all about the way the liver is coping with stress and overactive lives. As you get into your 40s and you're moving towards the menopause, and how her study is about menopausal symptoms much worse in women that have never taken time out, actually. So it's interesting, isn't it? So it's women's own health as well. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the question now.
That's a good response, thank you. That's okay. And then the next question is from Rosemary. How do you respond to the feminist belief that a caring, sensitive, loving nanny can replace the care that a mum would give?
Well, it all depends on who and when, and how much. Who, when, how much. Who is this person? And I mean, when I returned to study, actually, after my trauma, because I knew I couldn't go back to work. I had been a teacher. I couldn't go back to work. These children needed me to be both parents. So it was suggested, my late husband had been an architect, and the Royal Institute of British Architects were wonderful, actually, wonderfully supportive. And they said, can we support you? Perhaps do a course of study. Well, as you know, with study, you can do it at 3 in the morning when they're all sleeping or whatever, So I carried on, did a master's degree, and so on, and then got into all this business, and then, of course, later the PhD. But, yeah, it's about who the person is and when you introduce them and how much they are with your child. They can never substitute you, that is for sure. They never can. And as I say, in the early years when I went back to study, I had a series of au pairs. I was very lucky. 3 lovely girls, 2 Dutch girls, a German girl. But you must understand with au pairs, they don't come because they adore children. No, they want to have a good time in England and they want to improve their language, English language. But you play to their strengths, and it was only after the children had started school, it was really to top and tail them. Play to their strengths. One was an excellent cook. Another one was actually very good with the children, and the other one was a terrific housewife, I went to college one day, and I phoned her up at 11 o'clock. Have you got on all right, Nicole? Oh, yes, the washing is done. It is all dry. I have ironed it. It's all in the children's drawers. Yes. And, so you play to their strengths. But I used a lot of, mutual support. Friendships, I was living in London when my daughter was born, and then 3 sons born in Yorkshire, up the Yorkshirites. I met some people just as I came in the door from the same place, yeah. But anyway, it's just playing to the strengths, but mutual support is terribly important. And I know you get that with your peers here, it's just wonderful. And to legitimise what you're doing, yeah. Thank you.
No, you're good. Okay. I'm going to go for one final question because we're running out of time. So Liz, this one's for you. And then I think this question will also be touched upon this afternoon. So if you get a brief response now, don't worry, you'll get some more information later. The question is how to respond as a stay-at-home parent when others say how much your children will benefit from nursery or childcare outside of the home. For example, socially, or seeing that a mother can do work, which I'm often told, and I'm seeing that is more socially acceptable.
So in a nutshell, what's the question?
So I think the question is, how do you respond if someone, to someone when you say you want to be a stay-at-home mum, when lots of people are suggesting that nursery, childcare, education is good for children outside of that?
No, cuddles are good. Cuddles are good. Time spent baking, reading, watching old movies, doing chores, cleaning up with her, because that's the youngest one I have. Those, no, I'm adamant. You can't, this is my identity. This is who I am. I am a mother. And it's not easy to be a mother. And not everyone gets the chance to be a mother. And so for me, it's I'm very centered in that, right? You can't. It's not gonna happen. My children need me, right? And the studies have proven it. So them being at home when they're younger, it's imperative. It's not so much like a choice or, oh, I just want to do, no. This is important. With them being with me, I am able to support them. I'm able to connect with them. We're able to live life together. And I know these are the simple things of life, but when we're on our deathbed, because I've been there, maybe that's what also people will see. I've been there. When you're on your deathbed, nothing matters. Nothing. The things you think about are your children and your husband. Nothing else. Don't ask me what's in Waitrose I need to go and buy. I'm not thinking of meal planning. None of that is important, or what's happening at work or anything else. It's your children. And so the time I have with my children means that much to me. That's my story. That's why I'm like, no, you can go wherever you want to go. I'm going to stay home. That's it.
Maybe we all have to kind of learn that. I'll have to get better at that. Yeah. So it's lunchtime. Oh, actually, no. Before lunch, we've got a few little thank you to our speakers, and thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for a really wonderful morning and really inspiring. Tk you. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Well, if you could just repeat your question, and then Liz is going to answer it, just in case it's relevant for others in the room.
I'll just summarize the question. So my question was, for those of us who were raised in an authoritarian, kind of parenting where it was a dictatorship and not a democracy, and now that we're raising our own kids, sometimes that comes up because it's what you know. How do you push back against that type of parenting mentality?
Well, first of all, yes, I was also raised in that same kind of environment, so I realized that it wasn't going to best serve me raising these 5 children. And so what I did was I needed other voices to come in. And I'm a mentor for a lot of young mums and young ladies, but I also need mentors. And someone that mentors me, but I've met a few times, but I don't do life with, would be a lady called Sally Clarkson. All her books are everything to me, because I needed something quite heavy and challenging to counteract my past of that authoritative kind of disciplinarian environment that I was brought up in, so that I don't repeat that, because by default I would have repeated it. And I had to be firm with family and friends as to boundaries, because I needed a particular environment which would be conducive for me not to return to the ways I knew and copy the ways I was brought up with, but to bring in books. So I live with books. You come to my house, like it's just books upstairs, books in my front room, books in my bedroom is books. I need voices that will reinforce where I want to go, to drive home the message and give me the results I desire. I hope it's good. Yeah? Okay.